The clock struck 7 in the morning as Marcus Hale, a millionaire known for his sharp mind and short temper, stormed through his marble-floored mansion. His business empire was crumbling, deals were slipping away, and the last thing he wanted to see was someone moving too slowly. That's when his eyes fell on Mrs. Lillian, his elderly maid who had been with the family for over 20 years. She was quietly polishing the same silver tray she'd cleaned 100 times before, humming a soft hymn under her breath. 2. Marcus. It felt like calm in the middle of his chaos, and it irritated him even more. He snapped, accusing her of wasting time and not doing her job right. His words were sharp, full of frustration that had nothing to do with her. Lillian didn't argue back. She just looked at him with kind, tired eyes, and said softly, "Mr. Hale, I've been praying for you." Her voice carried something that made him pause for a second, but pride pushed him on. He told her she was fired and turned away before she could finish her sentence. But as she quietly gathered her things, she whispered one final prayer that echoed through the empty halls, words that would soon turn Marcus's world upside down. What happened after that prayer would make him question everything he believed about luck, life, and faith, and nothing in his mansion or his heart would ever be the same again. Marcus didn't think twice after letting her go. To him, Mrs. Lillian was just another reminder of the past, a past filled with his late mother's faith and quiet strength, things he had long stopped believing in. He had built his wealth from scratch, fought every battle alone, and trusted no one. In his world, prayers didn't fix problems, money and power did. Yet, as the day went on, he couldn't shake the sound of her voice from his mind. It wasn't just what she said, but the calm certainty in her tone, as if she knew something he didn't. That night the house felt colder than usual. The staff moved silently, afraid to cross him, and even the ticking clock in the study seemed louder. Marcus sat behind his desk, staring at a pile of failed contracts. His phone buzzed with bad news from another investor pulling out. For the first time in years, he felt something close to fear. As he rubbed his temples, his eyes landed on the silver tray Mrs. Lillian had polished that morning. It gleamed softly under the dim light, spotless, almost glowing. He reached for it, but before he could, the lights flickered once. Then again, a sudden breeze swept through the room. Though every window was shut, the faint sound of that same hymn she used to hum drifted through the halls, as if carried by the air itself. Marcus froze, his heart beat loud in his ears. Somewhere deep inside, he felt that her prayer hadn't ended yet. The next morning, Marcus woke up restless and uneasy. His sleep had been filled with strange dreams. He saw Mrs. Lillian standing by the grand staircase, whispering prayers that seemed to make the walls shimmer. He brushed it off as stress, but deep down, something about it lingered. When he entered the kitchen, the staff avoided his gaze. The butler quietly handed him a note found near the front door. It was written in delicate cursive. *, may peace return to this house when pride leaves it. There was no signature, but Marcus knew that handwriting anywhere it was Lillian's. Throughout the day, small things began to go wrong. The power would flicker, his phone would die in the middle of urgent calls, and his computer froze just as he tried to finalize an important deal. His assistant mentioned that several clients suddenly backed out, all giving vague excuses. Every failed attempt seemed to echo with the same soft hymn he'd once ignored. It was as if the house itself was breathing in rhythm with something unseen. By evening, Marcus drove to Lillian's small neighborhood, telling himself he only wanted to settle things properly. But when he reached her modest home, her neighbor told him she hadn't been seen since the day she left his mansion. The words hit him harder than he expected. On the drive back, the city lights blurred outside his window. A quiet unease grew inside him. Maybe her prayers weren't just words. Maybe they had started something he couldn't control. Marcus stood frozen at the top of the stairs, his pulse pounding in his ears. The house was completely still, yet he could feel something alive in the air, something watching. He picked up the folded cloth, and a strange warmth spread through his hand. A whisper brushed past his ear, so soft he almost thought he imagined it. *, let go, Marcus. His throat tightened. He turned sharply, but no one was there. Only the faint scent of lavender lingered. Over the next few days, the strange occurrences grew stronger. The lights flickered whenever he raised his voice. Doors creaked open on their own, and sometimes he swore he saw Lillian's reflection in the mirrors, smiling gently, as if reminding him of something he'd forgotten. His mansion, once his pride, now felt like a stranger's home. Every corner carried her presence. Every quiet space echoed with her prayers. Desperate, Marcus searched her old belongings, stored in the attic. He found a small Bible with his family's name written inside his mother's handwriting, not Lillian's. Inside it, tucked between the pages, was a photo of Lillian holding him as a boy, standing beside his mother. His chest tightened as the memories came rushing back. Lillian wasn't just a maid. She'd raised him when his parents were gone. Thunder rumbled outside as he dropped to his knees, overwhelmed by guilt and confusion. The hymn began again, faint but unmistakable, coming from somewhere deep within the house. Marcus followed the sound, trembling, each step taking him closer to the truth he had buried for years. Marcus followed the haunting melody through the dark hall, his footsteps echoing softly on the marble floor. The sound led him to the old study, his father's favorite room, a place he hadn't entered in years. The door, which was always locked, now stood slightly open. He hesitated, his breath shallow, before pushing it wide. Inside, the air felt thick with memory. The hymn was louder now, gentle yet commanding, wrapping around him like a voice from another time. On the desk lay an envelope with his name written in that same familiar cursive letter. His hands trembled as he opened it. Inside was a letter dated the same day he fired her. It read, Mr. Hale, I never told you the truth. Your mother made me promise to stay by your side, to pray for you until your heart found peace. The moment you told me to leave, I knew my time here was over, but not my prayer. When you remember who you are, you'll understand why I stayed. Before he could process the words, the lights flickered violently. The portrait of his mother on the wall shifted and fell, crashing to the floor. Behind it was a hidden safe, one he didn't know existed. His heart raced as he knelt to open it. Inside, he found stacks of old letters, deeds, and a single document bearing his mother's signature. It revealed something shocking. The company he believed he'd built alone had been founded with Lillian as an equal partner. His entire empire existed because of her faith in her promise. Marcus stared at the document, unable to breathe. His hands shook as he traced Lillian's name beside his mother's. 2 women who had quietly built the foundation of everything he owned. All those years, while he chased power and recognition, the truth had been buried in his own home. The hymn began again, softer this time, as if urging him to finally see. Tears welled in his eyes, and for the first time in decades, the hardened businessman felt small. He sank into the old chair, surrounded by the memories he'd long ignored. I was wrong, he whispered, his voice breaking. All this time, I thought you were just a maid. The air in the room seemed to shift, warm and light, as if someone was listening. The flickering lights steadied, and for a fleeting moment, Marcus swore he saw Lillian standing in the doorways, smiling, calm and proud. Then, just as suddenly, she was gone. As he reached for the last page of the letter, a folded note slipped out. In it, Lillian had written one final line. When you learn to give more than you take, you'll find me again. The words struck him deeper than anything else. The next morning, Marcus called his board together and announced he was transferring part of his company's ownership to a charity fund under Lillian's name. But as the papers were signed, a courier entered with a new delivery illegal notice showing another name linked to the company's founding. It wasn't just Lillian, it was someone else from his past. Someone he thought was gone forever. Marcus unfolded the legal notice slowly, his chest tightening as he read the name printed beneath Lillian's late mother, Evelyn Hale. She had secretly tied Lillian to the company as co-founder, ensuring her lifelong protection and honoring the woman who had helped raise her son. The truth washed over Marcus like a tide. His success, his mansion, even his wealth, none of it was built alone. It had all begun with love, sacrifice, and faith that he had long forgotten. Later that evening, Marcus stood by the grand staircase where he'd once dreamed of nothing but power. The house was quiet, peaceful now. The air no longer felt heavy. On the polished step, he placed a single white rose and whispered, "Thank you, Lillian." For the first time in years, he felt a strange lightness in his chest, something he hadn't felt since childhood. Weeks passed, and the mansion slowly came alive again. Marcus visited Lillian's neighborhood, restoring her small home and creating a foundation in her name to help elderly workers. People began to see a different man, humble, patient, changed. And sometimes, in the quiet moments, he still heard that soft hymn floating through the air, reminding him that some prayers never end. As the sun set over his once cold mansion, Marcus smiled faintly. He finally understood what Lillian meant. Peace had indeed returned, not because of his wealth, but because he'd finally let go of his pride and found the heart his mother and Lillian had always prayed for.